MS-13 is one of the most violent street gangs in the United States. Federal and local officials agree. Designated a transnational criminal organization with roots in Central America, more than 30,000 members worldwide, up to 10,000 in the U.S., and as many as 1,000 on Long Island alone.
La Diablita, or the Little Devil, as she calls herself on social media, 22-year-old Leniz Escobar was standing trial for quadruple. The accused MS-13 devoted associate charged with luring victims into a Central Islip Park in 2017, where they brutal MS-13 machete attack. Prosecutors called 13 witnesses, including several admitted gang members who testified under cooperation agreements. Among them,
the story of MS-13, one of the most notorious and violent street gangs in the world, spans from its origins in Los Angeles in the 1980s to its widespread influence across Central America and the United States, including New York. Founded by refugees fleeing civil wars in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Nicaragua, the gang grew through brutal violence and alliances with powerful criminal organizations. In New York, MS-13 has left a chilling mark, with one of the most infamous cases involving Leniz Escobar, known as La Diablita. Escobar was convicted for her role in luring 4 young men to their tragic end in a horrific 2017 attack that shocked the Long Island community and highlighted the gang's terrifying reach.
MS-13 is one of the most violent street gangs in the United States. Federal and local officials agree. Designated a transnational criminal organization with roots in Central America, more than 30,000 members worldwide, up to 10,000 in the U.S., and as many as 1,000 on Long Island alone.
We have about 500 identified MS-13 members here in Nassau County. Out of that 500, we have 215 that are active.
How do you identify who is an active member?
The number one is self-admitted. So they'll be all tattooed up, MS-13, I'm self-admitted. They do the signs. When they get arrested, they ask them, are you gang affiliate? Yeah, I'm MS-13.
Law enforcement says the gang first came on their radar in 2010, but they started to see an uptick in gang violence in 2015. According to intelligence, that's when leaders of MS-13 in El Salvador made a concerted effort to grow and establish new branches of the gang, so-called programas, in different pockets of the U.S., including the affluent suburbs of New York City and Long Island.
MS-13 was founded in the 1980s in Los Angeles by refugees from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Nicaragua fleeing civil wars. Initially a small gang known as Mara Salvatrucha Stoners, it evolved into MS-13, engaging in violent conflicts with rival gangs like 18th Street. Inside prisons, MS-13 aligned with the Mexican Mafia, gaining protection and adopting the number 13 to symbolize this alliance. In the 1990s, U.S. deportation policies sent thousands of gang members back to Central America, where they rebuilt MS-13, expanding its reach in El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. As governments cracked down, overcrowded prisons allowed MS-13 to grow even stronger, leading to widespread extortion, drug trafficking, and violence.
In a bulletin, the NYPD put out this alert for officers living in Suffolk County. Members of MS-13 are looking to hit NYPD police officers, specifically in the Brentwood Central Islip area, as well as possibly Patchogue. The bulletin says that the gang members would carry out the attacks on off-duty officers in order to gain street credibility. And while the threat has not been substantiated, law enforcement experts say this cannot be taken lightly.
Good evening, I'm Dana Tyler. We'll start tonight with that developing story. A major crackdown on a notorious gang on Long Island. At least 40 men, alleged members of the MS-13 gang, arrested on a range of charges, including conspiracy and assault.
Well, Dana, the Nassau County District Attorney says this was the largest mass arrest of MS-13 gang members on Long Island. It was a collaborative effort between the DA's office, the Nassau County Police, Gang Investigation Squad, and Homeland Security. And law enforcement authorities say that this is a huge step in eliminating this violent transnational gang. Ironically wearing a T-shirt touting strictly good vibes only, suspect Frank Maranta says he was shocked to be among dozens arrested this morning for alleged involvement with the MS-13 gang.
It's news to me.
Maranta says he's not in a gang.
By the early 1990s, The group known as La Familia in Freeport had evolved into a more organized gang focused on Salvadoran pride. This changed when 4 members of the Mara Salvatruch's Francis Locos clique arrived from Los Angeles. Their influence led La Familia to transform into Familia Mara Salvatrucha, the first MS-13 clique in New York. By 1991, new members like Hormiga and Cato began to carry on the gang's legacy. After the Los Angeles members left, Familia Mara Salvatrucha expanded beyond Freeport into nearby areas like Westbury, clashing with African American and Puerto Rican gangs. Around the same time, more MS-13 cliques began appearing across Long Island, many of them independently. In Nassau County, gangs like Central's Locos in Freeport and Mineola Locos Serenos in Mineola emerged, while Suffolk County saw the rise of Islip Locos, Salvatruchos, and others. As MS-13 spread, established cliques like Familia Mara Salvatrucha extended their reach, with the Westbury Familia Mara Salvatrucha forming under a leader known as Shorty, solidifying the gang's growing presence across Long Island.
Happening today, jurors are set to resume deliberations in the trial of a woman accused of helping the MS-13 gang. 4 young men. Federal prosecutors say in 2017, Leniz Escobar, also known as La Diablita, allegedly lured 5 men to a park in central Islip to smoke marijuana. When they got there, the victims were attacked by gang members with machetes. 1 ran off. The other 4 prosecutors say the victims were targeted for disrespecting MS-13.
Survivor Elmer Alexander Artiga Ruiz told the jury through an interpreter, La Diablita lured us to a park to smoke marijuana. We were soon ambushed by MS-13 gangsters. 8 or 9 covered their faces with sweaters, told us to get down on our knees. They had weapons, machetes. I jumped on a fence and stone wall, ran for my life. One shouted behind me, "Hack him." Thank God I managed to get away. Mary Chris, good afternoon. A chilling federal trial filled with heart-stopping evidence, photos, gripping testimony, surveillance phone calls, sobs in the courtroom. 4 weeks ago today began jury selection. Now, fewer than 4 hours into deliberations, a unanimous guilty verdict on all counts. La Diablita, or the Little Devil, as she calls herself on social media, 22-year-old Leniz Escobar was standing trial for quadruple. The accused MS-13 devoted associate charged with luring victims into a central Islip park in 2017, where a brutal MS-13 machete attack. Prosecutors called 13 witnesses, including several admitted gang members who testified under cooperation agreements, among them Kelly Gomez, a best friend of the defendant, who described how the 2 girls coordinated the killings in order to curry favor within MS-13. Leniz Escobar's boyfriend, whose gang name is Cruel, was a high-ranking member. Why were these victims chosen for slaughter, say prosecutors? Because they posed on social media disrespecting MS-13. A 5th victim testified he escaped that night under a full moon, running for my life, chased by gangsters shouting, "Hack him." In a recorded phone conversation played in court, Leniz Escobar tells her boyfriend in coded language,
4 sujetos ya no están aquí, no sé si van a volver nunca, jamás, ¿me entiendes? Se fueron en el tren anoche, ¿me entiendes? A eso, ¿me entiendes? De la cierta hora, ¿me entiendes? Que vos sabés, uno de ellos no, ¿me entiendes? He knows. So now I'm in trouble.
relatives and friends came to court to support her.
God is good. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Everybody, God bless you.
Her cousin spoke last week.
She was a young girl who had a difficult life, not having a father, not having a mother, being abused physically, mentally. She was a very smart girl.
Leniz Escobar, also known as La Diablita or Little Devil, has been found guilty on all counts for her involvement in the brutal deletion of 4 young men on Long Island in 2017. At just 17 years old, Escobar played a key role in luring the victims to their demise at the hands of the notorious MS-13 gang. The 4 victims, Justin Levicura, Michael Lopez, Jorge Tiger, and Jefferson Villalobos, were hacked with machetes and other weapons in a central Islip park on April 11, 2017. Escobar invited the 5 men to the park under the pretense of smoking marijuana, but they were ambushed by MS-13 members who believed the victims had disrespected the gang on social media. While one managed to escape, the others were deleted in a gruesome attack that shocked the local community. Their bodies, bearing significant trauma wounds, were found the next day in a wooded area where the gang had tried to conceal them. Prosecutors revealed that Escobar bragged about her role in the deletion to fellow gang members. She even destroyed key evidence, including a blood-stained sweatshirt and her cell phone, which she threw from a car while being followed by police. Escobar's actions, motivated by a desire to gain status within MS-13, were highlighted as a central factor in the deletions. During her 2022 trial, a witness testified that Escobar not only smiled as the men were deleted, but also licked blood off her lips. Despite her defense team's argument that her motive was never clearly proven, the jury convicted her on charges of deletion and racketeering. The case has drawn widespread attention, not only for its brutal nature, but also for the involvement of MS-13, a violent gang that originated in Los Angeles and has since spread to Long Island. More than a dozen other gang members and associates have been charged in connection with the deletions. Escobar's defense team continues to challenge the conviction, arguing that prosecutors failed to prove her intent to rise in MS-13. However, the judge maintained that the jury was justified in concluding that Escobar orchestrated the deletions to retaliate for the perceived disrespect shown to the gang. The case of La Diablita and the brutal deletions she orchestrated underscore the violent legacy of MS-13, a gang that has spread its influence far beyond Los Angeles, reaching Long Island and beyond. Despite efforts to contain the gang through deportations and crackdowns, MS-13 remains a persistent threat. Leniz Escobar's conviction serves as a stark reminder of the gang's ruthless methods and the devastation it brings to communities. As law enforcement continues to combat MS-13's influence, the story of Escobar and her victims serves as a tragic example of the gang's lethal hold on vulnerable populations.